The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, everybody. Come to you cordless. It's Monday night, March 23rd, 2026. I'm Jim Peters. Welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 328, if you're keeping score at home. And someday I'll be dead. Our guest, I don't know why that amused me. It just did. Our guest tonight is Dr. Gilda Carle, America's therapist. You know her and you love her. And she's joining us from Scottsdale, Arizona. And okay, so before you even say anything, I actually wrote down all your credits. I want people to understand what it is you've done. All right, your latest book is called Real Men Don't Go Woke, and we'll talk about that. But you've written 18 others. You've written 19 books. You've written 19 books. How many people do that? I don't even know if like Jeffrey Devers have written 19 books. I don't know. I have no idea. I don't. All right, here's the talk shows you've either hosted or been on. You did Dr. Gilda for Fox, your own show. You did the Love Doc for MTV. You did the 30-second therapist column for the Today Show. And you did Ask Dr. Gilda for the National Enquirer and Match.com. And you were on Oprah for a zillion times. I want to talk to you about that, too. And Bloomberg TV called you the female Tony Robbins with a doctorate, which is that, and also you were named the best speaker in America by Successful Meeting magazine, and that's pretty damn cool because there's a lot of people who are speaking, Gilda. It's like, if you can do that well, God bless you. I mean, I know you can, because do you sleep at all then?
Very little lately, not enough.
Like 4 hours, or
it's I need 7 hours, 8 hours if I can get it.
I spent about 3 years of my life. This is like a million years ago in the 1990s, where I only slept 4 hours a day. And I finally realized after 3 years that I could not.
I can't do that. No, I can't function that way. I don't know how Donald Trump does it. 4 hours a day? I don't know. He's better at this.
Hold on.
I need my sleep. I love my sleep.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Say again. You said he's better than you are?
I need my sleep. I love my sleep, and I don't like it to have any interruptions. How's that?
Yeah. Yes, I like mine too, and I'm very, very good at it. Ask my wife. All right. So here, I pulled this out of just a little thing here. I like these little things that kind of go unnoticed. In the blurb for your book, and let's put it on the screen here. Here's your latest book. You held it up, but there's a better picture. And so what a friend of yours designed this, what's her name?
Dr. Diane Hamilton.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It looks great. Fantastic.
Well, I was having a difficult time with the publisher, and they kept giving me ideas for the cover. And I said, I hate everything. Nothing works. Nothing works for me. And my friend who knows me so well, and she's designed other book covers for me. She's a PhD too, and we have kind of been tracking in the same direction, but she does different things. And she said, "Oh, I have the perfect cover for you." And she found this guy. I said, "Oh my God, that's perfect. That's exactly what I wanted."
So what the publishers, were they doing like corny stuff, or what were they doing? Or like trying to make it salacious, or?
No, not at all. I told them, this is what I want. This is what I envision. And they got it all wrong. And we went back and forth many times. And I said, I don't know how I'm going to ever end up with a cover because I can't find anything that I like. And then she said, I know you so well. You love this guy. I said, oh, yeah, yeah. So I was out the other night with some friends, And the women said, "Who's that guy on the cover?" I said, "Forget about the book. Yeah, everybody wants the guy. Too bad he's AI. Too bad."
Oh, is he AI? How big
Yes.
is he? Oh my God.
Yep.
So we talked about that the last time you were here. I'm skipping over was just about a.
Oh, no. I never talked about that. Nobody ever
Didn't?
asked me. No.
We didn't? I thought we, okay. It all blends together. I'm sorry. Forgive me. I thought we did. What, uh, Gilda, you can't have a relationship with a computer. I don't care what anybody says.
I am not having a relationship with a computer, although I talk about that in this book, that some people do.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm asking.
To do so.
That's a false relationship, isn't it?
It's no relationship.
Yeah, thank you. It's not even a relationship. It's called, I don't know. What do you call that?
Well, that's called manufacturing a sex doll according to the specs that you want and telling everybody, "This is my new girlfriend." Well, lots of luck. Is she going to keep you warm at night? Is she going to, if you have a cold, is she going to say, I'll get you some tissues? Not even that. You're not even getting tissues.
We're only 3 years away from an actual android robots actually walking around your house, you know.
I am sure. And what happens when we have them?
Yeah, you tell me what happens when we have them.
I don't suggest that we do that. I have found, and this is all in the book, I talk about this, how young men are looking at these fabulous porn events on their computer. Because of that, they can't have relationships with real women.
Yeah, I know.
And as soon as they stopped doing that, all of a sudden they had relationships again with real women. But if you're playing this game and you're playing like make believe, you're never going to have reality.
Sometimes I wonder if just the entirety of societies is sliding into non-reality, you know?
I think a lot of it is. I do. I think a lot of it is people want fantasy. People want things that they can't really have, and they feel that they're not getting everything they want and that they need because it's always the other person. It's always just listen very carefully to people's you language. You did this to me. You did this to me. You did this to me. Or the opposite of that is the victim language. Oh, well, she did that to me. And because she did this, I can't do that. I mean, whatever it is. I mean, it's either you language or victimization.
Yeah.
But it's never taking responsibility for, I screwed up.
I was going to ask you about victimization because I'm reading about this. Well, first of all, I did mention that you've been on Oprah 1 million times, right? When of course now Oprah's not really on TV anymore, and the reason I mentioned that, and the reason I put this on the list, is because this woman who got caught with the kiss cam thing at the.
Oh yeah.
What? She annoys you?
I don't even know the woman, but you know she's trying to make like she was in the right and she was cheating on her husband, and so what? Big deal. They were already separated, sort of, kind of. Who knows? We heard all this double talk, and the guy was married. I never heard him talk about anything after that.
Yeah, no matter of fact, he's kind of escaped out of all this. Basically,
no, he left his job. He no longer is employed there. Maybe he's employed somewhere. I don't know. But no, the two of them were having a fine old time. She blamed it on her husband being at that event in actuality. And I guess she thought that, well, he's there. I could do the same thing. The whole thing was so shabby. And there were children involved. That always gets me. When there are kids involved, I feel so sorry. Sorry. It doesn't work. I mean, if you're having an affair, well, she did it the right way, actually. I think if you're having an affair, if you're married, you should always have an affair with somebody who's married too. If you're having an affair with a single person, that single person is writing to me saying, when will she leave her husband?
Right. There's another thing too. The single party doesn't have anything to lose too. So,
right. No big deal.
Right.
But when you're having an affair with somebody who's married, you know that you both have things to lose, and you're both sneaking around, and that makes it all the more exciting and salacious.
Yeah.
So you're screwing around on the side and sneaking around, which is making it so exciting. And then wifey finds out. Watch out. Then you see all these big shot men, so worried. You see what scaredy cats they really are, because then they don't want to leave their marriages. You see, they never want to leave their marriages. They only want to stay in their marriage, but have a side chick.
Yeah.
And yeah, for as long as they can get away with that.
Because I hate to say this, if they wanted to leave their marriage, they just leave it.
Bingo! That's exactly right. So don't you out there come to me and say, how come he didn't leave, she didn't leave? We all agreed. We both agreed. After a certain time, we're going to tell our spouses, and we're going to go off in the wilderness and live happily ever after. Well, good luck to that, because that ain't going to happen. And there is no happily ever after anyway.
No, there isn't.
Get off that. That's the magic, the ideas that people believe are going to come to fruition from their imagination. Good luck.
But you have touched on something, though, and that is there may not be happily ever after, but there is excitement. People love excitement. So, I this is a terrible thing for me to say because it's really arrogant. I don't have any trouble with excitement because my professional life for 40 years has been very exciting. I get to talk to people like you every single day. It's work, but the thing is, I know my life is more exciting than the average person's. I know that. Mm-hmm. So, but still, the fact of the matter is people, get caught up. You're right. They get caught. It's a sex thing or something. And they, it's like, and people do, I don't know.
Whatever it is, I'll tell you this. It's going to be short-lived. Because either his spouse or her spouse is going to find out, and then you're dead.
Yeah.
Or they're going to kick you out, and then you're going to turn to your partner, and you're going to say, hey, she kicked me out. What am I going to do now? Let's live together. She'll come back and say, what, are you kidding? I still have a husband at home.
Yeah.
This was fun while it lasted, but adios, Buster. And he has to then find a place to live. And he's not such a big shot anymore.
Yeah.
All the stories go on and on. And they're all true stories. Every single story I write about is a true story. I don't make this stuff up.
No, and Gilda, tell me, women can always tell, can't they? I find this with my friends. I've never had this problem in my relations myself. But I see it all the time. Women can always tell. I swear to God, if I cheated on my wife, I know she'd know. I know she would.
You are so right. Yes, Jim. Women will always know because you're a little bit more distant or you're a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, right.
Whatever it is, you are more of the opposition so that you can gain back your woman's trust. She knows something has changed. All of a sudden, you're coming home with perfume on your shirt. What's that all about? All of a sudden, the things that you like to do with your friends, playing golf, etc., she knows where were you when you wanted to do other things than play golf. And now suddenly you're out to all these.
Oh, no.
It's real. It's not reality.
Well, we lost you for about 10 seconds. So
I know these things keep going off.
Yeah, well, it's the nature of our relationship, Gilda.
Another relationship that's not happily ever after. What do you know?
So this is what I was going to ask you. Is this a tiny little blurb or sentence phrase in the description for your book on Amazon about the fact that you drew wisdom from Sun Tzu's The Art of War. How does that figure into this?
Sun Tzu, well, you see, I teach business courses. I teach MBA courses.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, in business, I know that that's the art of war is kind of a big deal, but
Well,
I've never seen it, attached to relationships.
I learned a lot from him. Well, every relationship has positives and negatives. Every relationship has some conflict in it. You hope it does anyway,
Hmm.
because otherwise you're going to have a very boring life. So you're going to have disenchantment on one end or another. And if you, and Sun Tzu says, go to communication, not conflict. That's very important to remember. Communication first, so that we sit down and we discuss, how are you feeling with this and how are you feeling with that? And then I have a setup that I give my clients that are in my books. And I talk about when you are hurting, when your mate has hurt you, all you have to do is set up a sentence like this. When you did blah, 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 I felt blah, blah, blah. Very simple. And then shut up. Most people say, and you did this, and you did this, and you gunny sacking like Santa Claus's bag, filled with all these negatives. Instead of that, you say, when you did this, I felt this way. So he can come back with, well, you shouldn't have felt that way. I own how I feel. Nobody can tell me I should or shouldn't. So he has to try something else. So he says, well, this is what I meant to say. This is what I meant to do. And this, I'm sorry you interpreted it this way and that way. And then you start to have a conversation. Conversation is very important. So that's the basis for Sun Tzu's Art of War. And it's interesting because I was interviewed by the Wall Street Journal and I said, I don't even like the title Art of War. I prefer the translation, that's the art of strategy. I'm a strategist. When somebody comes to me and says, well, he's not asking me to marry him. He's not asking me to live with him. This has been going on for so long. What is happening? How can I get him to? And I said, first of all, you can't get anybody to do anything. He wants to want. He needs to want what you seem to want. And if he does not, and if he continues to behave the way he is, then you have to confront. That's another word that I use that is not often used the way I use it. Confront means being up front. I spell it C-O-N with capital F, capital R, capital O, capital N, capital T. Be up front with my feelings, because every single relationship that goes downhill is a result of people not being honest and transparent with what they are feeling. They were afraid to tell him this. They were afraid to say that. They're just afraid to communicate. What kind of relationship do you have if you can't communicate?
But Gilda, isn't it like a kind of like a trope of Western civilization that women try to change men? I mean, seriously. I mean, half of all the movies ever made are based on this premise.
No, he's okay. He shows potential until I get my fingers around him. Right?
Yeah, right.
Well, men don't like that, and I advise all my female clients, that's not going to happen. You cannot change the guy. You consider him like those racks of dresses, as is. The way you see him is the way you got him.
So I don't think men try to do that, do they? Men don't try to change women.
No, they don't try to change women. It's the women who try to change men. Well, he's okay, but I'm going to redo his hair and his wardrobe and his car and all these things.
Oh, don't get me started on that. There's nothing worse than a woman dressing a man, because if you have if a straight woman trying to dress a straight man, they end up being gay. That's all there is to it. I had this discussion with my wife. I really pissed her off. This is like 30 years ago. I said, no, I'm not. You're not dressing me. I'm not. That's not going to happen. And she says, well, but your wardrobe is so boring. I said, well, it's masculine. There you go.
But notice, but that's the wardrobe that she fell in love with. Suddenly, she's reeling you in. She's reeling you in. She's reeling you in. She thinks she snagged you. And then she says, now we're going to change the whole wardrobe. You go, wow, wait a minute. What happened? I didn't expect this. And I didn't want any of this.
And all of a sudden we're wearing pink pants, you know?
Oh, so, you know, I think everybody has to accept the person that they see when they see that person.
Yeah.
That's it.
So yeah, I'm going to get back to this thing about this woman being interviewed by Oprah. I think on her show on OWN, whatever it is, OWN or whatever. You know what occurred to me, and forgive me if she's a friend of yours. I mean, I know you've been on there a million times. Or, you know, it's past. Her weekday show. She's been off the air for what? Has it been 20 years? I don't even know. Has it been
she has specials that she does.
Yeah, right.
She still has a presence on television, but not a constant presence in her own show that is continuous.
Well, I saw her interview this woman from the Kiss Cam thing, and I'm thinking, and no offense to her, because I mean she is one of the 3 greatest talk show hosts who ever lived. I mean, she just is. You got her and Carson and Rush Limbaugh, even though they all did different gigs, but still, I mean, that's the you know, the Mount Rushmore there. But I thought, God, you know, I think her time has passed. I mean, all of a sudden it looked so old fashioned. And I thought, you know, and it hasn't even been that long. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm, you know, this is what I do. And I'm hyper critical, and I don't know.
So what did the Kiss Cam lady have to say to Oprah that you didn't know earlier?
Oh, exactly what you said. That she's made herself out as a victim. That this is all, you know, and that's and then you know, of course, the irony is, and I don't know if you and I talked about this the last time you were on, about the fact that if they had done nothing and just smiled for the camera, nobody would have ever noticed any of this.
That's true. That is true. But as soon as they saw the camera on them, they started to hide.
Yeah, that's right.
Down and they didn't want to be seen.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you don't want to be seen, that's the quickest way to be seen.
Yeah. So, all right. So I'm pulling some stuff out here that your publicist sent me to talk about. And one of the things that and this is about the fact that, you know, that Cesar Chavez has basically been exposed as basically a sex predator. And so now they're starting to take his names off of buildings and streets and that sort of thing. So the question is, Gilda, and I'm comparing this to like Bill Cosby. All right, Bill Cosby is a serial rapist. I mean, we know that now. Okay, he's been convicted. You know, a million women. I will, just as an aside, and you may not agree with me on this, and you can say so if you don't. Because there's fame and money involved here, of the 50 women that have accused him, I'm guessing about half of them are probably lying. That's my guess. But, and I know, you know, people say, well, I brought this up at a dinner party. People say, well, Jim, women don't lie about this stuff, but they do.
Oh, that's not true. That is the biggest story in the whole world. I was on Wall Street before I got into this stuff. And I was standing with a high-level executive, and he said, "Look, I'd like you to meet with so-and-so, who's my assistant, and see if you can improve her interpersonal communications." I said, "Sure." Okay, so we're sitting and talking together, this woman and me, and she was a high-ranking executive, and she said, "Well, if I don't get the promotion I want, I'm going to say he sexually harassed me." I said, "What? I had never heard this before."
How old are you at this time?
Maybe it was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I was doing all this stuff on Wall Street about that time. And I said, "Oh, no, you're not. You're not going to do that."
You were 16.
Oh, yeah, at least 16, right.
Yeah, right.
So, I said, "No, you're not going to do that." And she said, "Oh, yes. Why not? I deserve to have this promotion." I said, "You deserve to get it by merit. That's what deserve means." I said, "If he is not convinced, go out of your way to convince him further. But that is your job, to sell yourself to him so that he believes that you are worthy of a promotion. But she was immediately running to get him in trouble so that he could reap the benefits. I was doing a lot of corporate consulting in those days, and I had not heard this a lie. Woman to woman, she figured she could tell me.
Right.
And I said, no, that's not going to happen. Certainly not under my watch.
Yeah. Yeah. So my friend, I'm at this dinner party, and she said, well, women hardly ever lie about this.
Oh.
And my response to that is, they do if fame or money is involved. Like in your case, like there's money involved, So it's like, and people, when it comes to that, people lie. So the reason I brought this up, Gilda, is so if you take of the 50 women that have accused Cosby, if half of them are lying, he's still a serial rapist. He still raped 24 women, right?
I don't know if they were lying or what, but I do know that one of my friends could have been raped.
Yeah. This is all.
He invited her
to
a shindig at his house alone.
Yeah.
And she said, my God, I might have been one of the victims. And I said, you probably would have been.
And she didn't go?
She did not go. And she said, thank God I did not go. But he saw her cute little young thing, and
yeah,
he thought he could get away with it with her. So, I mean, but why now is Chavez in the news is the big question that a lot of people are asking. And they're asking that because suddenly it's not in style to be a sexual predator. Why? Consider Epstein. Suddenly, all these guys who had elevated positions, making major money, suddenly they are leaving their positions. They are embarrassed. They are ashamed. They don't want their name out there, and yet it is. And now suddenly we go back in history and we find out about Chavez. So it's so interesting, though, all of a sudden, as though he suddenly woke up, Gavin Newsom said, oh, yeah, I'm removing his name from everything. Yeah. Now here, I mean, he is going to be the great problem solver for everybody's relationship. Gavin Newsom, who was already cheating with his best friend's wife.
I know, it's terrible.
All of a sudden, everybody's throwing brickbats at everybody else's house because they think they can get away with it, or because they think that if we're focused on this guy over here, they won't focus on me.
But all those guys who went to Epstein's Island, is this because we're in the media and we are more familiar with this? How in God's name did you think you could get away with that? That's that people aren't going to notice.
Well, you figured you could get away with it because everybody was getting away with it and nobody got into trouble. In the days that I was doing network television every single solitary day, I was running around with all these people. And if somebody had said, Gilda, there's a party on Epstein's Island, I would have probably gone. Not to involve myself in any of those sordid situations.
Yeah, but
because this is what we all did. There's a party, let's do this. Just the other day, friends of mine said, we're thinking about, or maybe you think maybe we should get a private plane and go down and see this big person who we wanted to see. Maybe we'll get a private plane. Now, my friends are connected with a lot of different people. I don't have a private plane, but they don't either. But they wanted to rent one and take it and go. And because we're all in the same crowd, nobody ever questions, what's going to happen? Are we going to get into trouble? No, we'll pay the money for the plane and go to where we're going.
But there's a distinction to what you said. And you said, that you would go to a party on an island because your friends were going, and I probably would too, and many people were. But there's a difference between that and saying, I'm going to fuck that 14-year-old girl over there.
No, that didn't. But a lot of the people who did go to Epstein's Island Just like the people who went to P. Diddy's events did not get involved in any of the sordid stuff. That was a whole separate entity. But Epstein's Island was well known, and all the biggies knew about it and knew what they wanted to do, and as part of extending their own feelings of greatness.
All right. Yeah, that would be that makes sense. They have feelings of
the crowd goes, we go. You know, these are my friends, these are my television friends, and we all went together and whatever. I was always such a goody two shoes. I always left. I mean, I couldn't have left the island by myself, obviously, but I always left from things that I thought were a little too seedy and I didn't want to get involved with. And boy, I'm glad I did that, because you don't know. Years ago, I was working with some inner city girls, and I told them everything on the internet stays on the internet forever. And they said, oh, no, it doesn't. I said, listen, you have to believe me. They wouldn't believe me. I called in Verizon, and Verizon said, once it's on the internet, we can find it eventually. And they were amazed. Here, I mean, they're inner city smart kids in the streets. I mean, they had street smarts, very smart girls, but they didn't have formal education and formal ability to work in traditional jobs or whatever. They were street kids.
Mm-hmm.
And when I told them about the internet, they just didn't believe me. Well, no, she does. No, she doesn't know this. Certainly, they were wrong. And they listened to Verizon. They didn't believe me when I told them. So,
yeah, I had a experience quite a few years ago, talking about being a goody two shoes. I had just left a very prominent job, and I got offered the opportunity to be the assistant dean at a large school. Now, I've never had anything to do with academia my entire life. I hate it. I actually hate it. And so, but this woman, the dean of this university, she took my wife and I out to dinner, and she wined and dined us numerous times. She really wanted me to have this job. And it's one of the very few times, maybe the only time in my life I ever turned down a really good job. I just couldn't get myself to do it. And lo and behold, Gilda, about 6 months after I turned it down, she was in court for embezzling $500,000 from the school.
Oh wow! Oh wow!
I know why she wanted me, because I look like a frickin' patsy. That's why.
You know, sometimes God protects us from the things we're too stupid to protect ourselves.
You're right. That's absolutely right. God does protect us from our stupidity. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Oh man. Anyway, the reason I brought the Cesar Chavez thing up and the Bill Cosby thing is, the thing with Cosby is that, all right, he's a serial rapist, but that doesn't mean he wasn't funny. You know, I mean,
well, that has nothing to do with his rapist.
Well, no, it doesn't. But the thing is, you cancel somebody completely. I mean, so he has this legacy of really good comedic work. I mean, on TV, records, all that sort of stuff, and people now ignore it because he's a rapist. But I don't. Am I making any sense? Do you know what I mean? Is like, should we ignore the stuff he could actually do? Even
you mean throwing the baby out with the bathwater?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, that's the way it works in this society. What were you going to do? Say, oh, Epstein is a child predator, and yet, he knows about business pretty well. I still am going to hire him as my accountant.
That's true. Yeah, you're right. You're right. No, I wouldn't hire him.
Man, get away from me. I don't want to have anything to do with this character.
Yeah, I wouldn't. So here's one more thing about this. All right, so they canceled The Bachelorette, right? Now, I don't watch these shows. Do you watch them?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
Somebody wanted me to try out for The Golden Bachelor, or I think it's called The Golden Bachelor, for the older people to look for love. I said, not on your life would I ever say, oh, please pick me. That's not even in my personality.
No, well, yeah, and it's like it's just like automatically desperate, isn't it? I mean,
Oh no, I don't do that. I don't do
no, I know
desperate.
that's what I mean. You don't do that. I mean, yeah,
No, I don't. No way. That's
there's
not.
plenty women that do, though. I guess I don't know. You know,
Well, anybody would be a lot. I won't say anybody. Many years ago, I was at a party. I was friends with a paparazzi, and I was at this part. And she said, "Why don't you come with me? I have to cover something." I said, "What is it?" And she wouldn't tell me. She was a mean girl, and she wouldn't tell me. And here I wasn't exactly dressed to the nines, but okay, I had on what I had on, and lo and behold, she drives up to the Waldorf Astoria in Manhattan. I said, "Where are we going?" And she said, "Well, there's an event. You'll see." I said, "I'll see." I walked in, and there was a man I met earlier who I was going to be doing business with. And he was there. And he said, "Look, Prince Albert is upstairs, and let me introduce you to him." I said, "No, I don't care about royalty. That's not my thing. No, that's okay." And of course, he didn't listen to me. And then he pushed me to introduce me to Prince Albert's valet. And I had just written my first book, Don't Bet on the Prince. And I said, "Well, I don't know this guy, and I don't even care about knowing this guy." And he said, "That's okay." So he has this conversation with the valet and with me, and he said, "Get his card." He's saying this in front of the valet. He said, "Get his card because we want to send him your new book, Don't Bet on the Prince." I said, "Okay, whatever." Then he says, "Come with me." And he puts his hand his arm through my arm, and I walk with him. Now we're in this tiny little receiving room, and there's Prince Albert in the middle, and he's surrounded by paparazzi. He's surrounded by all these people. And he said, and the guy said to him, "Prince, I would like you to meet the Love Doc on MTV." And his eyes open wide. He said, "Oh, I need that." I'm standing there, all the paparazzis around us, and they're looking at me, looking at him, looking around, and they're saying, "How did Dr. Gilda get in the middle of this?" Don't even ask me. So they knew me from television because I was always on. So they said, "What is she talking about?" And they're getting closer and closer, trying to close in the circle. And now he's whispering in my ear. He said, "I'd like your phone number." I said, "No, no, no." I said, I didn't know what to say to him. I said, "I just wrote a book about you." And it wasn't about him, obviously. I said, "It's called Don't Bet on the Prince." I pick up a postcard with the cover, and one of the paparazzi shot the photo. The book went all over Europe. I had book sales that were through the roof. And he said, in the meantime, he said, "I really do want your phone number. I really need help in this department." I said, "Look, I haven't followed your life all that much, but I don't think you really need help in this department. So I think you're doing just fine from the little tidbits that I see." And he said, "No." I mean, he's used to getting what he wants, I guess.
I
So
guess.
"No, I want your phone number." He wouldn't leave. I said, "You know what? I don't even have a pen." So he whips a pen out of his pocket, and he said, "Write it down here on the postcard." So I said, "Okay, look, you know what? Just to stop this nonsense, this back and forth, I'll give you my phone number, but I don't want to see it on bathroom stalls." And he laughed because this guy had never had a laugh in his life. And this guy laughed, and he thought, ha, 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 ha. And then that was the end of it. And my friend, who was in that circle of paparazzis, she said, "Oh, I know I'm going to end up as his princess." I said, "What? What, are you kidding?" She thought she was going to be Cinderella that night. And this was a big joke to me. And then that was it. A year later, one whole year later, I get a phone call. He said, "This is Prince Albert." And I said, "Yes, and I'm Queen Latifah. Now, who are you?" So
And it,
he said, I am Prince. You don't believe me? Call me back in my hotel. But was under this fictitious name, his real name. And I said, okay, fine. What number do I call? So he gave me the number. And of course, I asked for the name, and they said, we don't know who this is. So I didn't call him back, but he called me right back. And he said, I'd like to have dinner with you. I said, sorry, I'm teaching a class tonight. I'm giving a final exam. If I had known this sooner, I might have made arrangements to see you. I'm sorry. He said, oh, you're doing something better. I said, no, I'm doing something different. And he didn't want to take that no for an answer either. So we came up with a date, and because he was going to New York, and that's where I was living, and he was going to New York, and he was going to be at the United Nations delivering a speech. He changed his speech date so that he could take me out for dinner. And we had dinner, and there was my phone number written on that postcard that he still holds on to. I said, you still have this postcard? It's been a year. He said, well, I haven't been back in the States yet. And then we were on the phone for about 4 hours. He was in Paris. I was in New York. And we just talked and talked and talked. But this was it was fantasy, because he wanted me to come and work with his crazy family. You know, he had one sister who ran off with the circus, and another sister who had marital things going on. And he wanted me to come there, but he was also interested in me.
right. I was going to say he didn't want your help. He wanted you.
Yeah, he wanted me, and he asked me if I would have babies and be willing to become the religion that he chose or whatever. And I said, look, let's just have dinner. This is all, let's just have dinner. But I don't drink. And he ordered a bottle of red wine. I wish I knew to this day what red wine this was. I couldn't believe. I said, no, I don't want. I don't. He ordered the whole bottle, and I said, no, I don't want. I don't drink. And he said, okay, but I'll give you a glass anyway. Let's put the glass on the side. And I did, and I sipped. I said, oh my God, this is fabulous. And I have never been so happy with a glass of wine in my life. I tried to order later on different dates that red wine, red wine. I didn't know anything about wine anyway because I didn't drink. So I could never duplicate that wine. And I didn't marry him. And I spoke to him a couple of more times on the phone. We went out. And but this can't happen. This is
you're the therapist here. I don't have to tell you this. The thing is, this is a perfect example of men desiring women. I mean, I'm not talking about casually. I mean, men see, and it's. I don't think it even has anything to do with beauty. Although that was, you got that. But men see. There's some women that just get under men's skin,
It's like a connection. And I'll tell you, we had a fabulous connection. I wish he were around these days. I'd love to talk to him, but that is probably never going to happen. But we had a great time. We connected really, really well. We had great rapport.
Yeah.
And he really, here's the killer. And this is how a man shows that he's really interested. Not only did my publicist send him a copy of the book, he read it. And and he said, how did you know so accurately that Princess Di was the way she was? And I said, I just did my research, and I have a third eye and a sixth sense, and I just knew. He said, God, were you ever accurate? And he thought the world of me because he thought, wow, she really does know this stuff. But we did connect, and it's unfortunate. He has this world, and then I couldn't talk to him anymore because his father had just died. He didn't want to take over the monarchy, but his father had just died, and he had a lot of things on his plate to do.
Well, you're a realist. I think a lot of women would think about like you were saying, the fantasy of being involved in that. But
No,
the fact of the matter is, it completely changes your life. I mean, it's like the compromises you have to make to be in that position is like,
he had no life. It was interesting because I had seen him after we had gone out for dinner. I had seen him at an event, and he was escorted by Sharon Stone, and he was hanging around talking to people, and all of these women were, oh, the swoon, oh, and his back was to me, and I walked in and I went bing, bing, bing on his back, and he turned around and he immediately ignored everybody around, and he shook my hand. It was very proper, and he shook my hand, and he never unshook my hand. And when we were finished, because Sharon Stone said, hey, look, we have to go in for dinner. This was a cocktail party that I was at, and this was preceding a dinner that they were having. And it was for the Princess Grace Awards that raises money for people in the arts. It's a wonderful charity that he continues, or I think he continues. I don't know. I haven't followed up on that. But he just turned around and he was shaking my hand. He didn't let go of my hand. And finally, after about maybe 10 minutes, and Sharon Stone came in and said, hey, we need to go in the other room. The paparazzi, who of course knew me, said, what was that about? I said, we know each other. And they left it at that. They could have made something up, but they just left it at that. And, I had a very respectful relationship with the paparazzi, and they just left it.
Well, you end up selling a bunch of books.
Who would have thunk? Who would have thunk? I was wearing a dress that didn't fit me right. The shoulders were falling off, and it was just a crazy night. And there he was, Prince Charming, and every woman
literally Prince Charming.
Yeah, Prince Charming. And it was so funny. But he read the book. That's the killer. I mean, if a guy is interested in a woman, he will go out of his way to try to get to know at least about her.
Yeah.
And then to know her. So it was wonderful. It was a wonderful fantasy for a while. But we connect, and that the only reason was because we connected. So how did I even get into this? We were talking about these.
I brought up my thing about the embezzlement.
He's not an embezzler.
No, I know, but that's how we got into it. I have no idea.
But here are these guys. The guys with Epstein, who probably didn't feel very comfortable about who they were on their own. And they had to have a name with them anyway. Yeah, well, I'm with Epstein, to brag to the guys about who they were with. And this, we saw a lot of this when I was running around in these circles. There was a lot of that. And, when I came out to Scottsdale, I said, I just want transparency. I don't want any of this garbage. I just want transparency. And that's what I look for in friends and lovers. I mean, I just want transparency, truth. And we're not finding very much of that. We find out all the hidden agendas that a Chavez has had. And everybody knew this, Jim. Everybody knew that.
I brought it up. That's right.
Yeah, everybody knew about his peccadillos. Everyone knew. And yet it was a secret that nobody talked about until it hit the news. Then all of a sudden, everybody's holier than thou. And Newsom, of all people, who was having an affair himself with his best friend's wife, he's now saying, oh no, we're going to take his statue down, his name down. He's a disgrace.
Yeah.
Why don't you look in the mirror and look at the disgrace that they are?
Right. That's the reason I brought this up, Gilda. It's like, you're talking about the baby with the bad bathwater. It's like should life be all or nothing? I don't know if it should. It's like
all or nothing. It's a little bit of this, it's a little bit of that.
Right.
What I say in Real Men Don't Go Woke is that I quote Bill Maher, who I adore. Bill Maher is left wing. He will always be a Democrat. Yeah. And yet he sounds more like a Republican, like a MAGA Republican, than he ever has. He's saying that if a guy wants a woman, he is so well grounded in interpersonal relationships. He really knows his stuff. He says if a guy wants a woman, she better understand that he is like decaf tea. He's going to have a little bit of toxicity in him and a little bit of wokeism in him, and he's going to be a regular good guy. But understand, even decaf has a little bit of that caffeine. And so, I mean, I think, yeah, guys will be toxic and so will women. Guys will be woke and so will women. But this whole thing about where woke has taken us today to put men down, to push men to the point, to the precipice that they're committing suicide. And now we know that men's suicides are 4 times greater than those of women. No, that's not okay. You cannot destroy a whole gender. Oh, excuse me. We have 72 genders, so what's the difference if we destroy one?
I don't know if anyone could say that better than you. That would thank you. No, seriously. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like to have you on. It's like that's the message. And it took us 51 minutes to get there. And that's all right. It's very entertaining. So I'm going to let you go, but we'll put your book on the screen here one more time. There it is. I could not say, thank you for saying that. I really appreciate that a lot as a man, because you're right. This can't go on anymore. This is like bullshit.
Can't go on. Our men are dying. They are losing their minds. And I am talking to men on TikTok who were telling me, I told my son, never get married. I said, well, that's not an answer. Well, I'm not dating any women. That's not an answer. Or the guy who came to me from Brussels and said, I know I'm a man, but I have heard enough about being toxic. Now I am defining myself as non-binary. That's not an answer.
No, that's not an answer.
Not an answer. No. The answer is get real. Understand where your heart is. Understand what you want to do. Do you want to have a relationship? And all the stats prove to us that men are more interested in having relationships than are women, especially these women today. And my whole life's work now, yes, I talk about the book. Yes, I'm being invited everywhere to do speaking engagements and to do book signings. Yes, yes, yes. But my whole life's work now is to get men to understand that some women are woke, the woke, witchy women. They do not like men. They do not like families. They do not like children. You will never have a relationship with one of those.
Last question. Then what do they like?
Those women don't like a lot. They like other women, maybe, or not even. They're so bitchy to other women. Look how they took Taylor Swift over the coals. She was one of them once. Oh, yeah, he did me dirty. He did me dirty. I think I'll write another lyric about that. But then she had the temerity of falling in love with the enemy. And she had the temerity of writing a lyric that said, I love you, I want to marry you, and I want my children to look like you. And so woke, white, witchy women said, what? That is racist. You are pushing the white gene. I said, this is too much already. This is the end of the world. This is too crazy.
Thank you, Gilda. I appreciate this a lot. You're very
It's
entertaining and also very informative too. I think they call it infotainment or something like that. I don't know.
I did those things years ago. I did all these infomercials.
Yeah, I know. I love you, babe. Don't forget it, okay?
Thanks, Jim.
See ya.
See
Our thanks to Dr. Gilda Carle for joining us there. Always interesting to have her on. Man, that story about Prince Albert was actually pretty amazing. That's incredible. It's time for the snooze news, everybody. It's March 23rd. Got a few items here. People in New York, not New York City, excuse me, in New Jersey, across from Manhattan, across the Hudson River, are complaining about really loud music. Now you think, well, that's no big deal. This has been going on for weeks. As far as the police can tell, the music is coming from Manhattan across the river. But people say there's people who live a half a mile from the coast, from the shoreline in Edgewater, New Jersey, who say it's so loud, it's like it's coming from the building next door. And they're not this isn't an isolated incident. There's all sorts of people. I don't know if it's hundreds, but easily dozens of people are complaining about this. So I actually checked. I had to check. Article was in the New York Post. The river at that point is a little over a half mile wide, but it's a testament to acoustics and sound. Under certain conditions, weather conditions, and especially if you have a flat river, the sound can bounce off the river and right into somebody's apartment or house like it's coming from next door. And people say it's really loud, like you can't sleep through it, even though it's coming from well over a half a mile away, probably a mile away. And they have not been able to figure out where it's coming from on Manhattan. The police are looking, they're trying to figure this out. They can't figure it out. It's just kind of fascinating. That's the way some things work. I mean, it's like the sound bounces off the river and into your house, and then the next thing you know, it's like you're there. It's mostly hip hop and rap music. It appears it's coming from some sort of rave or party, and the residents are saying it doesn't happen like every night, but about once a week, and it's not on the same night every week either. They don't really know. They can't figure this out. They can't figure it out at all. So, I'm obsessed with media stuff. You probably got that from understood that from me talking to Dr. Gilda. CBS News has shut down CBS Radio. It was in existence for 99 years, and it was the first network news broadcast of any kind ever. It started in 1927, and it became famous in the 1930s when they started to do the World News Roundup, which was the very first national newscast in America. What's his name? Is that terrible? There was oh Jesus, the guy. Oh man, I'm terrible. I should have wrote this down, but the thing is, I thought I'd remember. It's like Edward R. Murrow. There you go. Yeah, he did it. Thank you. Okay, I pulled that out of my butt. I'm sorry about that. It's one of those things I don't write it down because I just assume I'm going to remember. Yeah, Edward R. Murrow did the World News Roundup. I think it started that. I think that started around 35 or 37, just before the start of the Second World War. And so, 99 years, and Barry Weiss, the new head of CBS News, pulled the plug. They fired everybody and they're going to shut the thing down May 22nd, if I'm right. This is the last day. That's kind of sad. It's like, but on the other hand, radio is not a dead industry by any means. There's still enormous amounts of money in it, and still people listen a lot. Now, granted, almost everybody listens in their car, which is fine, but people don't listen too much at home anymore when you have the inner tube. But yeah, this cost a lot to run that organization, and I guess it was not paying off. So I got this wrong. I on the description for the show tonight. I said it was 6 people. It's actually 5. In the last 4 or 5 months, basically since December, 5 very prominent scientists have gone missing or have been killed, not in the United States, uh, and all 5 of them have ties to the U.S. military. The most recent one, which I talked about here previously, was retired General William Neal McCaslin. He's 68, and I think he lived in Arizona, but I can't remember what the city. I don't know, Scottsdale, whatever. He went out for a walk and never came back. Which okay, in and of itself. Now the thing is, this guy used to run um, the Air Force Research Laboratory at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, which is he's one of these guys who, like, if he died, if he's not with us anymore, he died with an enormous number of secrets in his brain. It's like he was really, really wired in, which is a reason the Air Force is actually concerned about this because they consider this the fact that he's missing a national security issue. Even though, if I'm right, I think he retired 13 years ago, but he still has his security clearances and apparently was still consulting for the Air Force. So he walked out his door, hasn't been seen since. He walked out his door, I think, on March 11th or something like that. Then there's this other woman. Her name's Monica Riza. She's 60. She was also involved with the Air Force Research Laboratory, and she also went missing hiking. Apparently, McCaslin went for a hike, supposedly. But the really weird thing, this thing about this Riza woman, if you follow David Paulides, who does these documentaries on called Missing 411, about the weird ways people disappear. So Riza is with a bunch of friends, and they're hiking in Los Angeles. I'm right, but it's not Griffith Park. It's somewhere else. I might have the details wrong here, but the point is made. They're hiking, and she's a little bit behind the group of her friends. Like they said, about maybe 30 feet or something like that, or 30. And someone turned around to look at her, and she wasn't there. Just gone, disappeared off the face of the earth. And then they looked for her. She didn't fall down a ravine or anything like that. They couldn't find anything. She's literally marching on the trail, and the next thing they know, she's not there anymore. It's just weird. And if you follow Paulides, he does documentaries about the way people disappear, these weird fashions. This seems to fit that pattern. But there's more. Yes, there is, folks. There's actually more. Nuno Lourinho was killed at his home by a former classmate of his in Portugal. That was on December 15th. He was murdered. And astrophysicist Carl Grillmar, he was 67. He was shot on his front porch, in his house. I did not write down where that was. And they have not caught the person who did that. They don't know who did it. So of these 5 people, 2 of them were murdered in their home, murdered. And then you have 45-year-old Jason Thomas, whose body was discovered in Wakefield, Massachusetts. He went missing in December, and his body was found March 17th. And I don't know if they know how he died or not. So this is all 5 of these people, as I said in the show description, all 5 of these people have been rumored to be tied to extraterrestrial research, UFO research in the U.S. military. All 5 of them. McCaslin, the general who walked off a couple weeks ago, his wife did acknowledge the fact that he had something to do with the UFO stuff. She said briefly, but she did acknowledge it. So, there's been, there's been rumors, and also David Grush and a couple of the people who have testified before Congress they haven't alluded. They've actually said this, that people have been killed for supposedly threatening to spread information. And that doesn't surprise me, because of the way apparently there are people in the Pentagon have extremely strong feelings about this. Some people will think that if disclosure actually comes and we announce the fact that aliens are coming here, that society might collapse. There's a faction of the Pentagon, and this is the truth. It's pretty much verified that think this whole thing's absolutely evil and the work of the devil, and they think that we should just ignore it. I'm not kidding. It's a religious issue. Um, who knows what's happening? It's like in the meantime, though, Christopher Mellon, the former deputy secretary of defense, he has gone on record talking about Trump releasing some files about the fact he said, here's a quote. He says, "We have satellite imagery of craft that sure don't look like anything that we have built or constructed," he said. And I've heard this too, that people wonder how come all these pictures of all these UFOs are so blurry and so bad. Supposedly the government has very, very good photos of them. I was reading today, there's a guy I'm trying to decide whether I want to invite him on the show or not. I'm not going to name him because I don't want to embarrass him. There's a lot of people who write books about the fact that this is all stuff in people's imaginations and stuff like that, and he this gentleman, he's purporting the fact that that none of this is real. And I have said, I've been talking with Tim Conaway, our old friend and guest, the former executive director of the of Hustler magazine, that you could, if a UFO landed in your backyard and two gray aliens got out of it, and you took a picture of them from 6 feet away with your camera, with your phone, and the picture was sharp and clear as day, nobody would believe it. And at this point, there's so many people who don't want to or simply don't believe this phenomenon is real that there's nothing you could do to convince them. I don't think, and it's certainly not photo evidence, because now, I mean, you have AI. I just read about this thing about there's a thing going on in Britain about some soccer player got interviewed by a woman with a very, very low cut dress after a match. And the pictures, they got all over the internet because he's very humorously trying not to look at her breasts. But it turns out that whole thing is AI. It was made up. That the player exists, but he never did that interview, and that woman does not exist. They made up the whole thing, and thousands of people bought it. And so, yeah, it's photo evidence isn't going to cut it anymore because it's so easy to convincingly fake. And so, what do you go on? Well, you go on, pre-internet stuff, like the stuff the government has. If the government's going to show us something, we assume it's real, especially regarding this. But also, there's just anecdotal testimony, and people say, well, people remember stuff differently, but there's so much testimony. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to say. I mean, there's, Nick Pope said this recently. He just retired. Poor guy has cancer, terminal cancer, I guess. So he quit working. But he said that one thing people don't understand is how many reports of UFOs the government actually gets. He said, because he manned the UFO desk for the Ministry of Defense in Great Britain. And yeah, it's like he's right. It's like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of reports. And so if 95% of them are bogus, which I've always said, you get the 5% that are left, that's still tens of thousands of reports. Are all those people lying or crazy? No. And this is the part where I take issue with Carl Sagan, and I'm not the only person who brought this up. He said the very famous thing, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence. No, they don't. No, that's completely wrong. If one of these stories is true, the phenomenon is real. All you need is one. So if hundreds and thousands of people say they've been abducted by aliens, is every single one of them lying? Every single one? I don't think so. I don't. That's the snooze news for tonight. We're gonna cut a little short because our interview with Gilda went a little long. So tomorrow night we have, oh God, I'm gonna get this guy's name right now. It's Hold on. Mark Kwan, if I'm right. I don't want to screw it up. Yes, Mark Kwan. He's an economist, and he's going to tell you how you can save and invest your money. It's a it's a money show. I'm gonna play Dave Ramsey. That should be interesting. The guy knows his stuff. He wrote a book called, oh God, I'm terrible. Forget me. Just okay. He's going to be on tomorrow night. I don't know about Wednesday and Thursday, but he's on tomorrow night. So let's leave it at that. All right. Thanks again to Gilda Carle for joining us. Just charming as hell. Enjoyed it immensely. I want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it very, very much. I don't spend enough time doing this. If you're on, one of the social networks, which you are probably watching this, subscribe to us. I'd love that. I would. Or if you're on TikTok and watching a short, like it, or follow. That would be wonderful. Please do that. It would make me happy. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. Good night to you, wherever you may be. I'll see you tomorrow night with Mark Kwan, everybody. Take care.